Before I can start talking about my project, I want to take you back in time a little bit to 2006. Okay, why 2006? I was in India as a volunteer. I was doing a project there. Two incidents there have directly influenced and shaped what you're going to see in this project, in my research. First of all, I was in this village and I saw a bunch of village women sitting down and watching a show. They were putting up some DVDs of some material that they have produced on the rights to properties, health, education, etc. We all take this for granted, but in some parts of India, the women there are discriminated. They don't have such rights. So when I was watching them, I could see their eyes light up when they're watching these videos. I could tell that the video is actually very powerful. Although I'm from the media industry, I sometimes don't realize how powerful video is. But after seeing them, honestly, I underestimated the power of video. Of course, there's no denying that video is awesome. It is going to be the next big thing. Okay, so let me go on to the next incident. What do you get when you have a bunch of village women, a computer with internet access, and a doctor in a city? Well, I don't have to tell you. Let me show you.
Sir, நாங்க தெக்குத்தெரு சென்டர்ல இருந்து பேசுறோம் சார். இங்க 4 பேர் பேஷண்ட் உங்களுக்காக வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் பரமேஸ்வரின்றவங்க பேசுவாங்க. அவங்க கிட்ட பேசுங்க.
ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ರೂಪಿಸಿದ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ ನೆರವಿನಿಂದ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಬ್ಯಾಂಡ್ವಿಡ್ತ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುವ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಸಂಪರ್ಕವನ್ನು ಸಾಧಿಸಬಹುದು. ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯು ಇದರ ಮೂಲಕ ಜನರೊಂದಿಗೆ ಮಾತನಾಡುವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಲವಾರು ಜನ ವೃತ್ತಿಪರರನ್ನು ಒಪ್ಪಿಸಿದೆ.
வீடியோ கான்ஃபரன்ஸ் விரும்பி ஏத்துக்காங்க. ஏன்னா அவங்களுக்கு அதிசயமா இருக்குல்ல, அங்க எங்கேயோ இருக்கிற
ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನಪ್ರಿಯ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ದೂರದಲ್ಲಿರೋರನ್ನು ನೋಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಮಾತಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸ್ವತಃ ಹೋದ್ರೂ ಕೆಲವರನ್ನು ನೋಡುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂತದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಎದುರಿಗೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೇನೋ ಅನ್ನೋ ತರ ಮಾತಾಡಬಹುದು. ಇದನ್ನು ಅವರು ಬಹಳ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡುತ್ತಾರೆ.
அவங்களுக்கே ஞாபகம் வரும். அந்த மாதிரி சான்ஸ்லாம் பண்றது மக்கள் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டா இருக்கு.
Can you imagine in the middle of a village, a bunch of village women sitting there, video conferencing with a doctor who's in the city? I was totally amazed. So how have these incidents actually influenced my project, PV4ALL? For information, PV4ALL means Participatory Video for All. Okay, Participatory Video for All is a project to empower people with the skills to produce their own video. But it's not merely giving a camera to the people. If I was a filmmaker, for example, I would go out there to make a film. I would find some beautiful young ladies and do a film about them. But the subjects themselves may not feel that that is a story they want to hear. They might want to do a story about men who discriminate against them. So, participatory video is about empowering the people with production skill set, get them to understand the whole process of creating a video through a collective, collaborative system, to tell their own stories in their own way. It's targeted at people who need a voice, those who are discriminated, those who are marginalized, who are less fortunate. For example, even students or the young who don't have an avenue to voice their own views. And allow them to tell stories which build self-confidence, create awareness, challenge norms, and maybe even sometimes change societies. But to tell you the truth, PV is not new. It has been around the 70s and many communities have been empowered with PV skills. The training of people in participatory video is an established process. First of all, you fly the expert in, put him up for a few weeks, and train the participants. But there is a catch. There, of course, there's some cost involved, especially if the expert is brought in from overseas. And the participants, for information, sometimes have to lose their livelihood. For example, in most several countries, they're paid on a daily basis. So every time they come for a course, they have to lose their pay. So it means that they actually lose money when they come for the course. And also, when the course ends, the expert leaves, that's it. There's no follow-up. So I want to actually get as many people trained in participatory video as possible. But of course, right now, there is a bottleneck. So what if we can use video conferencing or ICT tools to remotely conduct participatory video? Just like how we saw the village urban video conferencing with the doctor. Of course, there's going to be some cost savings. The expert need not be flown in. In fact, the expert can be sourced from anywhere in the world. And if he can actually speak the language, there'll be a huge advantage. The workshop timing can be worked around the participants' needs without them having to forego their livelihood. Of course, there's an option to always have follow-up workshops. But there are some implementation issues in the methodology. Besides the technology or the content delivery platform, video production, as you know, is a practical subject. I need to do a demonstration. There has to be hands-on practice for people to learn. So how do we achieve that? And of course, I still want the whole concept of participatory not to be compromised in this process. So I set out to tackle this issue one at a time. Once again, just to remind you, I want to actually intervene at this point. I want to take out the physical expert and replace with a remote way of teaching participatory video. First of all, technology. Cost is a big factor here, and it also has to take into account the local situation, the infrastructure and the resources available. The only requirement is on the local side to have an internet connection, even if it's a slow one. I intend to apply the techniques which SAW is already using in many of the global education projects, using tools like Skype, Polycom, in-house developed tools like DocoDemo to reach these remote places. The content, yes, the challenge is the lack of physical interaction. I intend to tackle this by first tweaking the content to make it more remote friendly. I'll explain this a bit later. Second, incorporate an element of co-facilitation, a person who works with the expert on the ground to keep the session running smoothly. And lastly, customize as much as possible the solution for the local needs. And of course, I'm still partnering with the NGO, who's an important stakeholder, who would be able to gather the resources, reach out to the community, do the groundwork, and deal with the local conditions. And, very important, keep it participatory. Keep the participants at the center of focus and get them to voice their views, their stories, with the expert just facilitating the learning. So, I got a chance to try out this system that I developed. I conducted a workshop as part of Agorasia with students from Myanmar, Korea and Japan. I had to teach the students how to tell an engaging story. They had to produce a video as a final output based on the subject of sustainable energy. This, I must admit, was one of my most challenging workshops that I've done. So I had to seek the help of a hero. Maybe you're familiar with him. Jackie Chan. Why Jackie Chan? Apparently, he's the only action hero who's recognized among all the countries that I was teaching. Okay, so I used him to explain to the students how to do an engaging story. But I must admit that Jackie Chan struggled a bit. I think he was bruised quite badly as the odds seemed to be stacked against him. First of all, language. We all spoke English, but unfortunately, the accents among the students was something that I was not able to overcome. So even accents in English makes it difficult for remote session. The connection, some of it was really good, but the connection to Myanmar, for example, did not allow me to see the student. There were many students, and sometimes students at the back, I could not see them. And of course, that means less engagement. The level of the workshop was pitched at perhaps a bit too high. A lack of understanding of the needs of the participants on my part. And of course, as I said, overall this led to less engagement than I would have desired. So with this learning, I embarked on my second experiment with students from Orchid Park Secondary School in Singapore. The mission was to train the students in video production to tell the stories that they wanted. As I said before, the connection had to be cost effective, yet be able to meet the demands of the workshop. So we went through a few iterations on what is the best connection, and guess what? I decided to use not one, but two Skype sessions at the same time. One connected to a webcam, like we all know, so that I can take a look at all the students. Another one actually connected to the production camera, so that I can see whatever they are shooting. So I'll be able to comment and give feedback to them as and when it's possible. In fact, this system allows for some redundancy. Even if one of the session fails, as in one Skype session, since that the other one, I can still continue the workshop. Next, the content. I set out to identify the needs of the students using a survey to determine where they are right now and what they want to achieve in the workshop. In fact, I even go down to the details of the production equipment to prepare the relevant materials for the workshop. I planned a series of exercises that are fun, like for example playing games. This has already been drawn up. I have a basket of exercises that I have, and based on the needs of the workshop, I found the right mix for this particular set of students. I used SNS tools because these students at Facebook, actually I didn't know that students can now have Facebook until this workshop. So I uploaded some of the materials that I had. In fact, they also uploaded some of the stuff that they did, like storyboards or even the clips. It must be noted that I took a particular effort to make sure that although this is a remote session, I'm still able to teach them the practical aspects of video production. So there were some notes, for example, for expert like me, to have a co-facilitator do some stuff for me to achieve this purpose. So there were 6 workshops in total. And what do you think really happened? What was the result? I think the best is I let the students tell you. I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
I was thinking of improving my camera handling skills.
I have the passion in filmmaking. I always wanted to learn how to make a good video. Chance to experience something new, something totally new.
Whose eyeline should it be? The camera must get a little bit of your shoulder, a little bit of your face.
First time I think it's not so easy because we haven't seen face to face. I'm very nervous. I thought it won't really work, but actually after a few lessons, then I really think that it's quite good. Yeah.
How is it? Can you zoom in on the 2 bottles there?
In a virtual class, the teacher cannot help the student handle the camera. So if they have some difficulties, the only way is through speaking, talking, telling them what to do.
Rich, how's the camera work? Is it easy to do?
I would like to ask you to do some example for me first before I'm taking videos, but it's hard, quite hard.
Can you then touch on the green bottle? How did Rich see Junrong taking the phone and run?
After this course, I've learned that camera work is very, very important.
Sometimes the focus will change.
We have to give opportunity to people from other countries, but they don't have time to come to our country. So online video is the only way that we can contact each other. It's the very first time that I actually attend to this type of courses. Yeah, I think it's really cool.
So, how do you think Jackie Chan did this time? Was it a knockout? Maybe it was just okay. Yeah. So let me tell you about the findings. First of all, language. There was no problem understanding each other because all of us spoke Singlish. So that was good. So getting an expert who speaks the language of participants, even down to the accent, I think can enhance the workshop. Connection. Like I said, I used 2 Skype sessions. Understanding the ground situation, using low-cost solution, but with maximum benefit to the workshop. That's another key success factor. Customization. I'm not saying start from scratch, but using the needs analysis to tweak the templates that are already available to closely match a situation. This is what worked for this workshop. But it was not all good news. Co-facilitation, which is one of the key elements of this methodology. While the workshop was crafted to work with the teacher joining the session, unfortunately he couldn't join. This affected the workshop, especially during the offline stage, in between the workshop sessions, where the students had to do some exercises. Without the co-facilitator, the students unfortunately couldn't finish some of the stuff. Stakeholders. When you have a stake, there's commitment. In this case, the school and students were keen to participate, but the commitment level was not established well. Students were very busy with their own schoolwork, and the teacher relied on the expert to carry the whole workshop. Thus, there is a need in future workshops to establish the level of commitment of all parties involved. Participatory, it takes time, to discuss, go through process of convincing others of ideas, argue, come to consensus. But in this case, a proposed 10-week plan had to be condensed to 6 weeks. I must say I had to compromise the participatory process because of this. Thus, there must be a reasonable time frame for the workshop, else the core participatory value is sometimes compromised. So what next? What is the future? So there's already a body of knowledge right now from the workshops that I've conducted, from the various connection scenarios to exercises for the workshops. This is coming together almost like a guideline or a Bible of sorts, which is going into a portal, and I'm going to use this to reach out to potential NGOs to conduct such workshops. This is also a way to reach out to experts who can conduct such workshops, because ultimately, if it is only dependent on me, this methodology will not get very far. The idea is to build on this knowledge to allow experts to easily mix and match existing materials to conduct workshops without much effort. I'm also actually currently in discussion with a NGO in India, Zan Foundation, to use this methodology to equip their beneficiaries with PV skills. I actually started off with a dream to put the power of participatory video in the hands of the underprivileged, the discriminated, the people who need a voice. Not one person, but communities. Communities all around the world. And I believe this methodology that I'm proposing, PV4ALL, is on the right track to achieve that goal. Thank you.